Let's turn back the clock together and return to that blazing summer of 1977. Do you remember the feeling of sitting in a pitch-black movie theatre for the first time, holding your breath as those golden letters slowly crawled into infinity? Back then, our world was simple: good versus evil, Obel, Jedi Knights and resilient princesses. Star Wars wasn't just a movie, it was a treasure of childhood, a place where we entrusted our most boundless dreams among the stars. But was that really all there was? Behind those dazzling images lies a harsh reality that Lucasfilm and Disney have long tried to scrub clean from the public's memory. Do you know about the blood spilled on set due to sheer negligence? About actors who were bitterly betrayed on the very day of the premiere? Or the deeply uncomfortable costume secrets that even the late Carrie Fisher herself wished she could forget? Welcome to 10 Dark Truths about Star Wars 1977 that they don't want you to know. 10. Leia's forgotten Force sensitivity. In our collective memory, the Skywalker family bond is a thread of destiny binding the entire galaxy together. But if you revisit the 1977 film with a more critical eye, you'll notice a logical gap so cold, it's almost unbelievable. Recall the iconic moment Princess Leia is imprisoned aboard the Death Star and Darth Vader, a master of the Force capable of sensing thoughts across vast distances, stands right in front of her, personally torturing his own biological daughter without the slightest emotional disturbance. What's most disturbing here is the eerie silence of the Force itself. Vader isn't just a warrior, he is a being acutely sensitive to every fluctuation of energy. The fact that he resorts to machines and drugs to interrogate Leia without detecting the shared bloodline or the dormant Force potential burning within her is a massive narrative flaw. Modern audiences can't help but raise a dark question. Was George Lucas at that point completely unaware that Leia would later be revealed as Luke's sister? Subsequent explanations that Leia subconsciously used the Force to shield her mind, or that Vader was somehow emotionally out of tune, sound like painfully forced attempts at damage control. The naked truth is that in 1977, Leia's fate was nothing more than a political chess piece in the script, and they were willing to sacrifice the internal logic of the Force for short-term dramatic impact. This inconsistency reveals that the Star Wars universe we revere was built from fragmented ideas where sacred father-daughter bonds were retroactively written in to rescue an unfinished story. 9. Han Shot First, the cover-up of cinematic history. For decades, a quiet but fierce war has raged within the fan community under the banner Han Shot First. In the original 1977 theatrical release inside the Mos Eisley Cantina, when faced with the blaster of bounty hunter Greedo, Han Solo doesn't hesitate. He draws and shoots Greedo under the table before Greedo can pull the trigger. It's a brutal, defining character moment. Han is not a noble Jedi. He's a hardened smuggler, a pragmatic survivor who strikes first to stay alive in a ruthless underworld. The dark truth emerges in George Lucas's later special edition revisions. Lucas deliberately rewrote history, digitally altering the scene so Greedo fires first and misses, forcing Han's shot to become an act of legitimate self-defense. Why? Because they wanted Han to be a cleaner hero, a morally sanitized figure fit for children and mass appeal. Fans fiercely rejected this change because it shattered the gritty, morally grey essence that made Han Solo compelling in the first place. By erasing Han's first shot, Lucasfilm effectively admitted they were willing to distort the original work to whitewash a character in pursuit of commercial safety and brand purity. This cover-up isn't just an editing mistake, it's proof that the filmmakers were willing to insult the audience's intelligence to impose a sanitized worldview on a story that was originally rooted in harsh survival. 8. Carrie Fisher and the pain beneath the tape. Did you know that behind Princess Leia's poised and regal appearance lies a behind-the-scenes truth painful enough to break anyone's heart. Have you ever wondered why Leia's white gown drapes so flawlessly? The answer isn't luxurious fabric. It's a bizarre and controlling demand from George Lucas. Carrie Fisher was not allowed to wear underwear during filming. Lucas's explanation sounded vaguely scientific. There's no underwear in space. In zero gravity, if your body expands and the underwear doesn't, you'll be strangled to death. It may sound clever, but in reality, this decision subjected Carrie Fisher to severe physical discomfort. To maintain the smooth and elegant silhouette of a princess without the support of undergarments, the crew resorted to using gaffer tape, industrial-grade adhesive tape with extreme sticking power to tightly bind and secure her chest throughout months of filming. Imagine the torment running and performing under the scorching Tunisian sun tape pressed directly onto sensitive skin. Every time that tape was peeled off at the end of the day, it tore at her flesh. Carrie Fisher later admitted with bitterness that she felt exploited and disrespected, but for the sake of the film's success, she stayed silent for years. They wanted you to see a symbol of hope. They never wanted you to know about the scars and pain that woman endured to satisfy the aesthetic demands of an obsessively controlling director. 7. The discrimination against Chewbacca, the scar of loyalty. In the most triumphant moment of Star Wars 1977, as John Williams's triumphant march swells, we watch Luke Skywalker and Han Solo stride proudly before the assembled ranks to receive their golden medals from Princess Leia. It is an image forever etched as the victory of good over evil. But look a little closer. Standing right beside them is Chewbacca, the fearless Wookiee warrior who risked his life piloting the Millennium Falcon, who charged through blaster fire alongside Han Solo to help save the entire galaxy. Yet when the film ends, the only reward granted to this furry hero is a roar echoing into the shadows of the ceremonial platform, with no official recognition placed upon his chest. This act of being overlooked was not merely a minor oversight. It became a lingering scar in the hearts of fans for more than 40 years. Why did George Lucas leave Chewie standing there like an outsider? Some have argued that Wookiees don't care about material honours. Others joke that the Rebel Alliance simply ran out of medals. But in truth, this moment represents a form of long-standing discrimination that has frustrated audiences for decades. It wasn't until 2019, in The Rise of Skywalker, that Disney made a belated attempt to repay the debt by finally awarding Chewbacca a medal. For devoted fans, however, that delay only sharpened the bitter flaw and injustice concealed beneath the veneer of unbreakable friendship that had been present since the very first film. 6. Obi-Wan's puzzling dismissal of R2-D2. If you grew up with the original trilogy and later spent your formative years following the prequels, you may feel a deep fracture, almost a mild shock within your own memory. Let's return to one of the most important moments of the 1977 film, when Obi-Wan Kenobi encounters R2-D2 again amid the harsh, rocky canyons of Tatooine. Instead of a look of recognition or a gentle pat on the familiar metal shell, Obi-Wan calmly delivers a chilling line, "I don't seem to remember ever owning a droid." A sentence that may sound casual, yet is powerful enough to erase decades of shared battles. Remember, throughout the entire prequel trilogy, R2-D2 was not a nameless machine. It was a loyal comrade, repeatedly saving Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker during blazing space battles and life-or-death missions deep within separatist territory. How could a Jedi Master with a disciplined mind capable of recalling the subtlest movements of the Force forget a companion who had crossed the galaxy with him during the brightest years of his life? The truth is, this wasn't a profound artistic choice. It was evidence of a massive script inconsistency. It exposes the lack of long-term narrative planning in George Lucas's vision when creating films decades apart. In 1977, R2-D2 was simply a plot device, and Lucas had never imagined the droid would later be given a heroic past intertwined with Obi-Wan's. To cover for this flaw, they often offer strained explanations that Obi-Wan was lying tactfully to protect Luke from the truth about his father. 5. Mark Hamill and the blood-red injury behind the camera. We often think of Mark Hamill as the young, idealistic Luke Skywalker, a symbol of purity and hope. But behind those legendary images lies a disturbing secret from the Death Star trash compactor scene that few truly know. To achieve absolute realism, as his character is dragged beneath filthy water and pushed to the brink of suffocation by the Dianoga, Mark Hamill actually held his breath and pushed his body to its physical limits for an extended period of time. The result was a painful medical accident. Extreme internal pressure caused blood vessels in his left eye to rupture on the spot. When he surfaced, one of Hamill's eyes was visibly blood red, a genuinely horrifying sight. Yet what matters most isn't the accident itself. It's how the production handled it to conceal the incident. Instead of stopping immediately to allow the actor to rest and receive urgent medical attention, George Lucas and the production team chose to continue filming the remaining scenes from carefully selected angles. Lighting shadows and tilted camera positions were used to cleverly hide the blood pooling in his eye, all to avoid further delays in a production already severely behind schedule and over budget. They needed a flawless, pristine image of Luke Skywalker on the big screen, and the actor's physical pain was merely a detail that could be hidden through cinematic technique. The next time you watch that scene, look closely into Luke's eyes. The resolve and fear you see are not entirely performance. They are the real endurance of a man suppressing a bleeding injury on his own face to satisfy the ruthless perfectionism of the production machine. 4. Darth Vader and the voice betrayal of David Prowse. Darth Vader is the embodiment of eternal fear, one of the greatest villains of all time. Half of that character's soul lies in the deep, commanding and menacing voice of James Earl Jones. Yet behind the imposing black armour exists a personal tragedy, a bitter betrayal that Star Wars history has long tried to bury. Actor David Prowse. A bodybuilder standing nearly 2 meters tall was the man who physically endured the scorching heat of the Tunisian set, performing every movement and delivering every line of Vader's dialogue with full commitment and physical strain. Throughout the grueling shoot, Prowse fully believed that his own voice would echo through theatres around the world, finally turning him into a star. The dark truth revealed itself like a slap in the face. On opening day, David Prowse was stunned to discover that his voice had been completely erased and replaced by James Earl Jones without any prior notice or discussion. George Lucas later explained that Prowse's West Country accent did not sound dangerous enough. But instead of addressing this openly with the actor, they chose to execute a silent substitution behind his back in the editing room. David Prowse felt deeply humiliated and betrayed as his most important contribution was dismissed. The rift became so severe that he was labelled an enemy by Lucasfilm and effectively blacklisted from official Star Wars events for decades. To the world, Darth Vader is an untouchable legend. To David Prowse, he was an iron cage, one that stripped him of both his face and his true voice. 3. Kenny Baker and the hours forgotten inside the tin oven. While R2-D2 is beloved as an endearing robotic companion, life inside that metal shell was a genuine nightmare for actor Kenny Baker. Small in stature, he was forced to operate the heavy structure under the relentless, blistering heat of the Tunisian desert. The height of the negligence occurred when the crew broke for lunch. Amid the chaos and exhaustion, they completely forgot that Kenny Baker was still trapped inside the R2-D2 suit, left alone under the scorching sun. Unable to free himself without water, and with no one hearing his cries for help, Kenny nearly lost consciousness from heat stroke in a cramped space that functioned like an electric oven. And that wasn't all. Whenever the crew knocked on the robot's shell to test or adjust it, the sound was amplified dozens of times inside, torturing his hearing and leaving lasting damage later in life. They loved R2-D2 for the profits it generated, but the safety and dignity of the man inside the shell were treated as secondary concerns. This stands as one of the clearest examples that behind the laughter and entertainment lie silent sacrifices, sometimes painfully extreme, made by overlooked artists. 2. Psychological ghosts and the hatred of legacy. The meteoric fame of Star Wars 1977 brought more than wealth. It unleashed devastating psychological shadows upon its cast. The most heartbreaking case is Jake Lloyd, who played young Anakin Skywalker. Though he appeared in the prequels, it was the enormous shadow and extreme fanaticism sparked by the 1977 phenomenon that destroyed his life. Relentless harassment from the media and obsessive fans pushed Jake into schizophrenia, and repeated encounters with the law turning a cinematic dream into a lifelong mental prison. Even veteran actors were not immune. Alec Guinness, the legendary Obi-Wan Kenobi, openly despised the film. He considered Star Wars childish rubbish filled with absurd dialogue. He disliked it so deeply that he asked George Lucas to kill off his character in the very first film, simply to avoid being trapped in a role he believed lacked artistic depth. This dark truth was buried beneath the serene image of a Jedi Master. But inwardly, Alec Guinness always regretted becoming part of this universe. The stark contrast between audience worship and insider resentment remains one of the saddest chapters Lucasfilm has never wanted to revisit. 1. Wage scandals and exploitation. Beneath the billion-dollar glow, the darkest truth of all, ranking at number 1, is brutal financial injustice. Star Wars 1977 generated billions of dollars, transforming George Lucas into one of the wealthiest men on Earth. But on the opposite side stood the people who physically built that universe, the stormtroopers. The cantina creatures who were treated as disposable. They worked in cheap plastic costumes so suffocating they caused oxygen deprivation, frequently collapsing on set due to heat and poor ventilation, all for meagre wages. Even more bitterly, while studio executives amassed fortunes, many early background actors fell into poverty in old age. Their contracts were carefully structured to deny them even 1% of the film's enormous profits in royalties. They built an empire on the labour of the nameless, then cast them aside once the spotlight faded. The price of global fame turned out to be systematic exploitation, where those who laid the bricks of the monument received the least. This is the darkest truth of all, one that leaves any fan silent when re-examining the glorious facade of the Star Wars empire. Do these dark corners diminish the value of a legend? Perhaps not. On the contrary, they show us that to create a galaxy capable of captivating billions, the cost is sometimes the cruelty of reality itself. The flaws and historical cover-ups we've uncovered are ultimately proof that Star Wars was made by flesh and blood humans, complete with mistakes and ambition. No matter how radiant the Force may be, it cannot erase the behind-the-scenes ghosts that helped shape this empire. What about you? Among these 10 dark truths, which detail shocked you the most? Are you willing to accept? George Lucas sanitizing Han Solo into a model hero? Or do you still prefer the dusty smuggler who shot first in 1977? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's debate these hidden truths together. And if you enjoy deep dives into cinematic secrets like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss even darker scripts about legendary films to come.